Spawn is a 1997 dark anti-superhero movie with some pretty awesome horror elements mixed in. I do remember when this first came out, and I was in film school at the time, and a lot of the guys I was hanging out with thought this was the biggest piece of shit they'd ever seen. So I never watched it, mostly because most of the feedback I heard from people they were saying that it was just pretty bad. Now later on, I did see it on HBO. I didn't watch the whole movie on HBO, but I saw some scenes from it, and really I thought it looked somewhat okay. But it did. I'm going to get into my new thoughts upon it now, because I did watch it in its entirety in this new limited edition version from Arrow Video, which Arrow Video has done a really good job with this movie, and we're going to get into this limited edition packaging here in just a bit. We're going to talk about this transfer and the stuff that's on this release. There are two versions of the movie here. There's the director's cut and also the theatrical cut. And we're also going to talk about this movie a little bit. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films, and as you can see, I'm an avid physical media movie collector. I've been doing review videos on this channel for a little over a year now. You can check out my content that I've done before this on this channel. Spawn was directed by Mark A.Z. DePay. Now, Mark A.Z. DePay works for, or at the time, worked for Industrial Lights and Magic. He's responsible for probably some of our favorite computer-generated visual effects from that time period, including the kind of water creature in the abyss that comes through the ship. Is quite amazing, the computer animation in this. Now, that's the kind of CGI that I really approve of and I really, really dig. It's just like kind of what... Sometimes they just go too far, I think, with CGI, and now it's like AI. They go too far. They get to the point where you're into it, and then they just kind of jump the shark in a way. But he also did the T-1000, Robert Patrick's character in Terminator 2, which was friggin' amazing. I don't think anyone had any problems with that, and they also had no problems with the amazing dinosaurs in Jurassic Park that he also worked on. So he's got some very impressive work that he got into before this. Now, all three of those movies happened before 1997's Spawn. Him having this background in the visual effects meant that he has a lot of visual effects in his film, and he kind of threw in the kitchen sink with it. And there's also, on top of that, which I really think is awesome, there's some pretty badass practical special effects in this movie, which I really, upon watching it more, I really appreciate that. And they mix pretty good with the visual effects, and I'm going to talk more about the visual effects here in just a bit. Now, when this movie came out, this is kind of an anti-superhero movie. It's based on a comic book, and that wasn't as big of a deal then as it is now. Now, there was Tim Burton's Batman that most people loved. That came out, I think, in 1989, and Batman Returns in 92, which both of those were fairly favorable. But then what happened in the third Batman in this original, in this Tim Burton's, they switched to another director. I'm blanking on his name. Joel Schumacher, I think. But he directed Batman Forever in 1995, 2 years before Spawn came out. And what happened there, they basically turned Batman Forever into a kind of a really brightly lit film. The first two Batman movies, Tim Burton's Batman movies, were gothic, borderline horror, and especially Batman Returns. I really dig those films. But then when they got into Batman Forever, it was fun, but then they changed it into this really candy-colored Gotham instead of the kind of dark gothic Gotham that I prefer. And then they did Batman and Robin, and it just went way ballistic with the goofiness. So by the time this came around, Spawn, they were going back to this kind of dark, kind of gothic sort of anti-comic book movie in a way, which we're going to talk about the plot here in just a little bit, because it's kind of bizarre. But they went into that darkness, and people just I guess the audiences wanted a more colorful thing. It wasn't until later on when when Christopher Nolan did his Batman series that it got back into that dark gothic sort of thing. But another comic book movie that this does remind me of, not some of the special effects. One of the monsters, which I'll talk about in a little bit, is Howard the Duck. Is also another comic book movie from the 80s that is more goofy, and most people hate this film. I have a bit of a soft spot for it. I saw it a bunch when I was a kid. The last time I watched it, I will have to agree it is a bad movie, but it's still a lot of fun, and there's some monsters in this that remind me of some monsters in this. Spawn stars Michael Jai White as the title character Spawn. Even though he doesn't get top billing, he gets second billing, but John Leguizamo gets top billing for he plays this character called the Violator. I think he's billed as the clown in the closing credits, but he plays this really fat clown dude who's been sent from hell to kind of entice or try to get Spawn to do what they want him to do. It's a little complicated on the story, and this is a superhero origin story. Now, John Leguizamo, as you probably know, he's not a big fat dude. He's a pretty skinny dude, especially he was at this point. So this is a pretty crazy amount of big fat clown suit that looks pretty friggin' amazing for what it is. But this movie also stars Martin Sheen as the one of the main human antagonists, who's the CIA director, Jason Wynn, and also has D.B. Sweeney in the cast, plays Spawn's partner. When Spawn, at the beginning of it, he starts in human form. He is kind of I guess he works for the CIA, and D.B. Sweeney's character is his partner, who turns out to be a pretty nice guy. He's a good guy, but he gets called into this. Martin Sheen's character, CIA director, sends him on this kind of suicide mission into this sort of. It gets. I don't want to get into all the details about all of that, but he does get into some bomb situation, and he eventually gets blown up and killed. Spawn does, and then he's not Spawn. His name's Al at the beginning, and then he gets sent to kind of, I guess, his hell, where there's this character named Malebolgia. Maybe kind of like the devil. I guess he looks kind of like the devil. Now, this character is shown talking to the clown earlier, and the clown talks to Martin Sheen and tells him he wants him to send Spawn here. This character, the Malebolgia, kind of looks like the devil. He basically wants Spawn's help in order to bring a bunch of other Spawns. I guess some kind of hell on Earth. He has some kind of big plan, maybe to destroy the Earth. But this character, and when you see hell, I think this is what a lot of people complained about. It is very surrealistic. It looks very trippy, and it doesn't look realistic in a way. But I don't mind it as much as like people were complaining about it, because it doesn't look real, but it almost looks like partially cartoon in a way. But it looks like friggin' trippy shit, like I said before. But I don't know. I didn't hate it as much as I thought that I would, and there's not a lot of screen time in there in hell, but it is kind of a composite of different images. And in 1997, it is pretty impressive. There's, like I said, there's a pretty impressive amount of special effects, both practical and CGI, in this film. I don't want to get too deep into this plot, but I'm going to say a couple other things. So basically, like, after he dies, he turns into this Spawn character. There's a bunch of Spawns down in there in hell, and then they send him back up to Earth with some kind of crazy mission. He has a choice. Basically, the clown character shows up, trying to push him in one direction. There's another character up there played by Nicole, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Williamson, who played Merlin in Excalibur, if you've ever seen that. But this was his last film. I think he died not too long after this from a disease that he didn't know he had at the time. But he plays this other character who's up top, and he's kind of like his, eventually becomes his mentor. Now, there is some odd stuff, not necessarily odd, but, in a hero journey, you do have the scenes where the mentor teaches you how to use your powers. Once Spawn eventually learns how to use this suit, at first he's got this big, when he doesn't have the suit on, his makeup, he looks like, it has some crazy burn makeup on, and he's wearing, Michael Jai White had to wear some crazy makeup for most of this movie, and it was apparently really hot when they were shooting it, and very uncomfortable. But he does a pretty good bit of stunt work in this scene. I think Michael Jai White has some martial artist background, so he's able to do these stunts, heavy makeup. Eventually he turns into the Spawn. The Spawn suit just kind of takes him over. It's kind of like I mean, it's basically part of his body. It takes over him, and then he can take it on and off. It goes back into him, and it looks pretty cool for the most part. It's a pretty cool design on the Spawn suit. And John Leguizamo as that clown looks pretty awesome too, and he's got a pretty decent amount of screen time, and he's a lot of fun. He apparently ad-libbed a lot of the stuff he was saying, but he's just that clown character is friggin' funny, and he's got like I said, he's got a pretty good bit of screen time, and it kind of gets a little like in the middle of the film. Kind of in the middle, he kind of stops being the clown, and he turns into this bigger monster that looks kind of like the monster I was talking about earlier on Howard the Duck. And I'm going to show you a picture of it here in this booklet in just a moment. But he kind of comes out, and he kind of turns into this big monster. He calls himself the Violator, and turns into this big monster and chases him for a while. And that's a little much. It's not the worst, but I guess it's a little much. But I guess you had to have that character become like stronger briefly. And then there's the part that I think really I really like the first half of the film a lot, and there's actually a really cool sequence when he goes to confront Martin Sheen's character for the first time, and one of the secondary antagonists gets killed, and Spawn just straight up kills this secondary antagonist woman that set him up. He just shoots her, and that's one of those things that kind of makes him not like a hero. He's an anti-hero because he just point blank kills her. She deserved it for what she did, but at the same time, it wasn't like a superhero move. But he does get to make choices in this film. It also has the kid that played Gage in Pet Sematary in it. He's not that much older, but he is kind of a teenager in this scene, in this movie, not in the scene. He's in a few scenes actually. But I was going to say and I'm almost done talking about the plot. I was just going to say, I guess it's almost like they kind of push a bunch of stuff together in the middle. It's like it gets to the point where John Leguizamo's character is going to go kill his ex-wife or ex-fiance, and he's going that way to go do it. And then while this is happening, like it becomes that moment where Nicole Williamson's character starts to train him and teach him how to use his suit. Where that training and teaching him how to use his suit should come at a time when there's not like an urgent matter at hand, but I don't know. They kind of all that superhero stuff. It just seems like it's all crunched together, and so there's a little bit of I guess unevenness with the script, and they're definitely trying to make it instead of like spreading it out like the stuff they do. They have an urgent matter going on with someone getting blown up and him having to go chase it, and these things that you would normally have time to develop have to happen pretty quick. Let's go ahead and take a look at the limited edition contents here. Now, this is an Arrow video release, and I've done a lot of other Arrow video release reviews that you can check out on my channel. I was going to show you a couple other ones. Now, this is, as you can see, it's a fairly thin one. It's a slipcover only, but there are a couple of items in here. There is a small booklet, and there's a poster we're going to take a look at. But I'm going to show you this is a lot better, really thick set that this Creepshow 2. I did a review on this one. You can check that out. But a lot of times Arrow will release one of these in their mix. So they'll release a certain amount of films per month, whether it be like 6 or 8. And usually like one of them will be like this, maybe 2. And here's a really awesome one, Crimson Peak. I did a unboxing of this. I still have not done a review on it. Maybe I will one day. Let me know if you want me to do a review of Crimson Peak, and I'll check it out. It is a great gothic horror film. But this one here is, as you can see, only has a slipcover, which is pretty good in itself. But if right now you can get the limited edition slipcover version, they may eventually come out with a standard version, which will be just this without the slipcover. There are 2 discs in this one, which is kind of rare for Arrow. A lot of these boutique labels will put like a Blu-ray and a 4K in here. This one has 2 discs, but they're both 4K discs. Disc 1 has the director's cut on it, and Disc 2 has the theatrical cut on it. Now, there's only 2 minutes difference in the length of the 2 films, but there's a lot of differences between them. There's actually scenes in the director's cut that aren't in... There's scenes from the theatrical cut that aren't in the director's cut, and vice versa. There's a lot of differences. I did watch the director's cut first here, and that's kind of... I figured when I opened it up, as you can see when you open it up, by the way, you see this right here? There's a card for Red Sonja, so that's going to upcoming Arrow release, and I'll probably end up getting it. I've never seen that one, so it's got Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. It was kind of like supposed to be another Conan movie, but it ended up not being that. But see, the first disc when you open it up, the director's cut. So I figured that's what they want me to watch first. They put it first. They probably considered that the better one. So I watched that one and then kind of spot checked the theatrical. But there's not like a huge difference in them, but there is. I mean, there's like subtle differences throughout the film, and there's so many of them that it would be hard just to go through them. But there's nothing like that big. There's obviously like in the director's cut, there's more. It's just some things that are, I guess, more uncensored are in there. There is a reverse cover. This is the original theatrical artwork on the reverse sleeve of this. So let's take a look at the poster. And then we're going to read a little bit of that booklet. I'm going to read to you about the transfer specifically. Here you go, the original theatrical artwork. And here is the new artwork for the Arrow release. They're both kind of cool. All right, let's look at the booklet. You got this on one side of the booklet. On the reverse side, you got that. There's a Spawn on the inside. I do like this. Does have a cool kind of horror feel to the film. There's John Leguizumo's Violator, the clown character, and that character is really a lot of fun. I used to think it was just kind of over the top when I didn't quite understand the film. I just thought it was just kind of an over the top goofy character, but he's a pretty threatening character throughout the movie. And there's a lot of essays in here about the film. If you look in the opening thing, it says there's really one essay. It says Spawn's long, hard road of comic book movie hell. So, and then it's got the cast and the crew in the front. Here's that monster that John Leguizumo's character turns into, and he chases him. It kind of looks like the Howard the Duck monsters a little bit. And that one gets very computer animated looking. Sometimes it may be like practical, but it gets kind of a little overwhelming after a while. That chase scene goes on for a while. It gets really big. And there's another Spawn pictured actor. The Spawn suit is pretty impressive, and it is a practical suit that the actor had to wear. And there's an interview with the actor on here, a brand new interview, and he talks about that some, and it was like a really big deal. Now this kind of makes me think that seeing this picture of the monster, it does look almost practical in this one. So maybe like that monster was practical in some of the shots. So here we're to the back end of it, and I'm going to talk where it talks about the transfer. I'm going to read you a little bit about that. It says, Spawn has been restored by Arrow Films and is presented in its original aspect ratio of 1:85:1 with 5.1 and stereo audio. The director's cut and the theatrical cut of the film are presented in 4K resolution in HDR10 and Dolby Vision. So that's good. It's got HDR grading. And by the way, it looks really good. The original 35mm camera negative was scanned in 4K 16-bit resolution at Warner Brothers Motion Picture Imaging. Now that is an interesting thing because it says a 35mm camera negative. Now something like this, you would think, especially with all the special effects, it would have had a digital intermediate, but it does have a 35mm camera negative, and that's what they were able to make. They were able to make this look really good with this new 4K transfer. It says all materials sourced for this new master were made available by Warner Brothers. Now, as I was saying before, this film, especially with all these digital effects in it, and it doesn't look as bad as you would think. It actually, especially the scenes that aren't visual effects, look really great. You can see a lot of detail in this the practical special effects work, even like in people's faces. You see a lot of detail. This HDR grading does bring about a nice palette of different colors. It is somewhat colorful in some areas, and sometimes it goes a little bit towards green or something like that, and it has it does have a very nice grading to it, and it looks it must make a lot of interest for the film. And even like the scenes like that aren't graded like that, they look very natural, and it looks even this visual special effects, some of those, like I said, they get a little overwhelming, especially closer to the end. But some of them, for the most part, I thought they all looked really clean here. And the film, though, the grain is there, but it isn't overwhelming. It's very nicely resolved, so it doesn't look like it was necessarily cleaned up or scrubbed. I don't see any evidence of that. But yeah, I mean, really though, I thought it looked. I don't know if this. I don't remember. Like I said, I'd never watched this film before. I saw it on HBO, but I think this new amount of information does bring more details. You see more details in the background and all that, and is actually very well produced. The set design and all that is quite impressive. Now, on top of that, which is also really awesome about this release, there are a pretty good bit of new special features. There is of course the transfers, but now on the disc 1, that's where all the special features are. Disc 2 just has the theatrical release on it. There is an audio commentary, a new one with comic book expert and podcast host Dave Baxter, and there's also an archive audio commentary with Todd McFarlane, the comic book writer who created Spawn, and the director Mark A.Z. DePay, and it's a couple other guys on there too. And they've shot some brand new interviews with some of the actors and some of the other crew members. There is a solo interview with Michael Jai White on here that is terrific, and there's also an interview which has two different actors in it, Melinda Clark and D.B. Sweeney, who kind of play supporting characters, but there's also some footage mixed in with those two interviews, and they're kind of mixed in as one sort of thing. And there's an interview with special effect, the animatronic creator and special effects makeup artist Howard Berger and Greg Nicotero, and there's also one with a music supervisor Happy Waters, and there's a new one with the editor Michael Knue. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And then there's a bunch of other archive special features on here as well. So it's pretty stacked when it comes down to the special features supplements. It's very impressive amount of those. Now I'm going to go ahead and rate the movie and this release. I'm going to rate them both on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. First, I'm going to rate the movie. I'm going to give Spawn a 3-star rating. I did, and this is something that I wasn't expecting going into it. I did enjoy watching it. I'm going to say that it's got a lot of good qualities in it. The acting's pretty good. I really like John Leguizamo is. He's a little over the top, but I thought he was a lot of fun in it. Martin Sheen is the character may be a little one note, but Martin Sheen has like a really great presence in all of his work, and I actually kind of like what he does here. And Michael Jai White, very impressive amount of what he had to do with all that makeup on, and I do like his performance. And when he shows him without the makeup early on, he's very charismatic, and later on when he has the makeup on, he does pull off that character pretty good. So I'm gonna land it with a 3. I probably would have rated it a lot lower had like I not watched it this time. I would have rated it 2 or something. But I did enjoy watching it. And as far as what Arrow's done here, I'm going to give them a 4-star rating. I like their supplements. It's very impressive. The 4K transfer looks amazing. I like this limited edition release. I would have liked a bigger cover like they do with these other ones. But I think this is suitable though. It's suitable in general. So anyway, let me know what you think about Spawn and this Arrow 4K UHD release. And if you go ahead and click on this box here, it's going to bring you to one of my other Arrow release videos that I did recently. I'm Dave Watkins, Watkins Films. Thanks for watching.